Miriam. A very good evening and warm welcome to Breaking Today News right here on Switch TV. My name is Lincoln Wambogo and our sign language interpreter is Tracy Dorcas. We have a lot prepared for you tonight, but first, let's take a look at the highlights. Kenyans could pay 327 shillings each to get a dose of the COVID-19 vaccine.
Inji sio watu wawili. Inji ni watu wote.
No signatures required before the referendum set to begin tomorrow.
I started coaching when I was 15 years old, back then in 2015 May.
From the sports desk tonight, we tell you about Kenya's youngest coach. This is... Well, we are live on Facebook, YouTube and Twitter, Switch TV Kenya. Sending your feedback to our SMS line 111 and at Switch TV Kenya and at Lincoln Wambogo on all my social media handles. On to the top stories tonight. The collection of signatures required before the referendum is set to begin tomorrow, with a task force targeting 4 million signatures within a period of 1 week. Majibu Kitsao with the details.
The exercise, which was set to begin last week, was postponed due to alleged late completion and publication of Constitutional Amendment Bill 2020. Kenyans are being taken aback one more time to vote a yes or no in a referendum 10 years later.
The process of collecting signatures for the Building Bridges Constitutional Amendment Bill 2020 will be launched tomorrow, and Kenyans too have their say on this.
After 5 years tukienda uchaguzi vita inaanza na kama hii BBI itakuwa inazuru ya vita after election for referendums they support because sisi kama wanabiashara tunatika sana baada ya uchaguzi, baada tuendelee kazi yetu huwa tunatika kuna maandamano kuna nini. Sasa tumetaka hiyo kitu hizo.
Inji sio watu wawili. Hii inji ni watu wote. Kama wajungaji walikaa wakaona BBI kuna mahali haiko sawa, hatuwezi sign ati kwa sababu BBI iko sawa, na sisi wachungaji wameangalia kama watumishi wa Mungu, wameangalia hiyo kitu sio mzuri, kuna mahali kuna shida, lazima waitengeneze ndio watafute signature ya sign, sio kulazimisha watu waweke signature, na BBI tumeikataa. BBI sio mzuri.
BBI was set up in the wake of March 2018 reconciliation between President Uhuru Kenyatta and co-leader Raila Odinga following skirmishes in 2017-2018 general elections, where Odinga saw himself as people's president unconstitutionally. The primary purpose of the referendum, however, according to BBI drivers Raila Odinga, is to give Kenyans an opportunity to approve or reject laws proposed in the Building Bridges initiative, their bottom line agenda being that of uniting Kenyans.
The task force says the bill is now ready. Will Kenya manage to avert a 2020 referendum? Majibu Kitsao, Switch TV News, Nairobi.
Thank you, Majibu Kitsao, for that story. Moving on, the Kenya National Nurses Union has issued a 14-day strike ultimatum to the government through their Secretary General Seth Penyako. The nurses now want the government to meet their needs, which include the employment of 7,000 nurses to help in the fight against COVID-19 and also the inclusion of free comprehensive medical cover for nurses. Meanwhile, DCI Director George Kinoti has distanced himself from claims that his office is revisiting post-election violence cases that were closed. He has clarified that cases being pursued were those that were never reported. Samuel Namukana reports.
DCI boss George Kinoti has denied claims that his office is revisiting post-election violence cases. In a letter sent to newsrooms, Kinoti has clarified that the cases that were being pursued were those that were never reported. Kinoti added that the cases that were complete in court and a verdict given will not be revised. Kapseret MP Oscar Sudi is among the lawmakers allied to Deputy President William Ruto, who have hit out at Kinoti for allegedly scheming to revive the post-election violence and ICC cases as part of a plan to undercut Deputy President William Ruto ahead of 2022 polls.
Haitafika mahali Kinoti unaita watu unalipa pesa atu wakuja waandike statement atu nda kufufua maneno ya ICC. Kinoti we mwenyewe ndio utaenda ICC, make my words.
The MP also claimed that Kinoti and his team had also schemed to sideline Ruto and cause differences between him and his boss, President Uhuru Kenyatta.
Kuungana kwetu haikuwa mzaa. Lakini kama mnataka kutumia hiyo kisiasa, you will not succeed. Hata hii yote mnafanya BBI. Mnataka ati tugongane, ati yes na no. My friend, leo tuko mbele yenu saidi.
There are mixed reactions from Kenyans on whether the cases should be opened or not, some claiming this will trigger hatred among citizens.
Wamefanya poa sana juu kuna wenye watapata haki. Na kuna kitu poa kama kupata haki yako, unacheki. Juu kuna wase walipoteza mali wengi sana. Kuna wase walipoteza familia, wengine wakaachwa. So itakuwa poa sana.
Mr. Yunga mkono sababu itatufanya tukumbuke mapaya ile pesa tutaandika kutoka huko nyuma. Watu wameaga na watu sasa wanaendelea kupona.
It is a sigh of relief for the post-election violence victims as the perpetrators will be brought to book. This is according to DCI's boss, George Kinoti. Samuel Namkana, Switch TV, Nairobi.
Thank you, Samuel Namukana, for that story. Elsewhere, the Ministry of Health has assured all healthcare workers that the government is not ignoring their plea, but is working towards ensuring proper medical cover is availed to all healthcare workers working under county governments and the aligned institutions such as universities. 17 more people have lost their fight to COVID-19 in the last 24 hours. Meanwhile, Kenya has recorded 727 more positive COVID-19 cases in the past 24 hours.
Concerning doctors who work in universities, like I've mentioned, this is an issue that is being discussed. There are different workers who, are in different groups in terms of mandate. What we can say today is that we are happy all civil servants are covered, but we are aware that more work needs to be done to ensure that workers working in county governments are covered, as well as aligned institutions such as universities. And so these discussions are underway together with National Treasury to ensure at the end of the day all our workers are covered.
Moving on, President Uhuru Kenyatta has today said that an all-of-government approach adopted by his administration has improved service delivery, especially on project completion, absorption of project funding and accountability of project outcomes by implementing agencies. The President said the approach has also enabled the government to respond better to the COVID-19 pandemic. President Kenyatta spoke today at State House, Nairobi, when he presided over the official opening of the 2020 Virtual African Delivery Exchange Conference, co-hosted by Kenya, African Development Bank and the Tony Blair Institute. Moving on, Food and Agriculture Organization FAO now says that control operations are underway against smallholder bands that are forming from local breeding in Samburu County, signaling a second wave of locust invasion in the country. FAO is now calling upon the government to take measures to control the locusts, which are harmful to crops and may interfere with food security in the country. Emmanuel Terer with more.
Beautiful colors of their wings. They crawl in unison while others fly jovially. Their beauty contradicts their eating and destructive habits. Locusts. They wreaked havoc much this year on their first wave in Kenya and other neighboring countries like Ethiopia and Uganda, among others, as the same was experienced in the Middle East. This being the worst locust attack since decades ago. In a statement, FAO said although some of the swarmlets that arrived in Kenya may have already laid eggs in southern Somalia, before their arrival, there remains a risk of further egg-laying in sandy areas of northeastern Kenya, where recent rains have fallen. According to FAO, breeding continues in central Somalia and eastern Ethiopia, where hopper bands are present, and a new generation of immature swarms will start forming by the end of this month. From the second week of December onwards, several waves of numerous swarms can be expected to move south in Somalia and Ethiopia, reaching northern Kenya. Emmanuel Terer, Switch TV.
Thank you, Emmanuel Terer, for that story. Kenyans could pay 327 shillings per person to get a dose of the COVID-19 vaccine developed jointly by pharmaceutical firm ASTRAZENECA and the University of Oxford. The Kenya Chadox 1 and COVID-19 vaccine, which is also being tried in Kilifi County by the Kenya Medical Research Institute, KEMRI, is said to protect over 70% of people who use it from catching the deadly virus. This is as per the results of the first phase trials announced yesterday.
Kenya has been sitting on the sidelines after it emerged that the logistical nightmare of handling the first two vaccines announced by the Pfizer, BioNTech and Moderna were out of reach for the country.
Teams that are running the vaccine in Kenya, this is a KEMRI Kilifi Wellcome Trust team, are actually ongoing in terms of the trial and have given us a good update. To start with, we have about 400 Kenyans who have been registered in this trial.
According to Health Director General Patrick Amoth, Kenya could easily enter into a bilateral partnership with AstraZeneca to get more doses, as this shows promise because it shows protection against all age groups and could also stop transmission of the virus.
The current vaccine trial in Kenya is going on well. We do not have that number yet here in Kenya. So the number you've seen in the media is a number from Brazil, the trial that is happening in Brazil. And sometimes you can have differences in terms of geographies when you're testing a vaccine.
Up to 40 frontline health workers from Kilifi have been involved in the joint KEMRI and University of Oxford trial. The other vaccines from Pfizer will cost about 2,000 shillings a dose, while Moderna's is priced between 1,000 shillings to 2,000, based on agreements the firm has struck with the US government. The second phase of the trial targets 360 adult volunteers and is expected to run for months, with the volunteers drawn from as far as Mombasa. Nyakundi Calvin, Switch TV.
Thank you, Nyakundi Calvin, for that story. 16 days of activism against gender-based violence is set to begin tomorrow in Nairobi. Officers commanding stations, also known as OCS'S from Nairobi County, have received training on how to handle gender-based violence, as David Kagina now reports.
Officers commanding stations, also known as the OCS within Nairobi County, have today been equipped with training on how best to handle gender-based violence cases reported in their desk, as they are the first point of contact for victims reporting gender-based violence and should hereby understand the magnanimity of what they're dealing with.
So far, we have trained all OCSs in the country by the support of the Deputy Inspector General, Kenya Police Service. We found it is important for the OCSs that is where everybody reports their cases, and that is where the members of the public meet the police presence, apart from the patrols. It is the center of delivery for police officers.
As we mark the 16 days of activism, we thought it would be good if we involve the police in terms of making them aware of how they are able to report, how they can be able to interview the victims in terms of gender-based violence.
The officer receiving training say that the training will boost their perception of community policing and gender-based violence.
Not only on women and girls, but also on men. So we are encouraging people to come forward and give the reports so that they can seek help. But more importantly, by use of community policing, we are greatly encouraging people to volunteer and give information. Let them partner with the police so that crime can go down.
A number of them have been trained and they've been equipped with those skills that enable them to effectively deal with victims in issues of psychosocial support, as well as ensuring that that trauma that comes with JBV is mitigated before it can reach galactotic levels.
Cases of gender-based violence steadily increased after the outbreak of COVID-19, and the National Police Service now hopes that by equipping the officer commanding stations, then the perpetrators will see justice. David Kagina reporting for Switch TV, Nairobi.
Well, with David Kagina's story, we now take a short commercial break. Stay tuned, we'll be back with more. Welcome back and thank you for keeping it Switch TV. We are live on Facebook, YouTube and Twitter at Switch TV Kenya. You can send in your feedback to our SMS line 111 and at Switch TV Kenya and at Link Kanumbogo on all my social media handles. Ethiopians fleeing Tigray fighting find refuge in Sudanese homes. Ethiopian refugees had no plan when they left for Sudan after the conflict hit the Tigray region, but they have been welcomed by residents across the border. Hungry, thirsty and fatigued, they arrived at the Sudanese border town of Hamdayet after walking several hours and wading through the Setit River in the early days of the conflict. Despite the language barrier, their host, Sudanese Arabi Hassan Mohammed, says they're happy to host their brothers and sisters from Ethiopia.
We first asked them to help us find a place to sleep. They told us we could sleep and live with them here. We asked them for a house that we could rent, but they informed us that there weren't any available at the moment. We are still living with them until now. At the camp, we didn't have beds and we ate in queues. We struggled to find something to eat. You can't find food. But here it's better since we can buy food items with our own money.
The refugees came to us as guests from Kuba refugee camp. We cannot abandon them. How can you expel a human being like us? We are not able to converse with them since we do not know their language, but they came to us as guests and we welcomed them.
Elsewhere, security forces evacuate people affected by Cyclone GOV'T, which hit Somalia's Puntland region on Sunday, flooding homes and causing considerable damage. Heavy rains and strong winds triggered flash floods along the coastal and inland areas, according to the UN's Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs.
Flooded homes and roads is the new face that welcomes you to Somalia's Puntland region, hit by Cyclone GOV'T. Residents in coastal Somali may have been caught off guard by the ferocity of the storm, unmatched by any other system in Somalia's history. Winds of 62 to 69 miles per hour were predicted in a joint forecast issued by Somali Water and Land Information Management and the United Nations.
The Bosaso district is facing more problems following heavy rains. Most of the people affected are displaced people and local residents of Bosaso. The cyclone left 6,000 families homeless and without food. The homes of these families were flooded, and the other houses were destroyed by heavy floods.
8 deaths are so far being blamed on the tropical cyclone GOV'T, the first hurricane-strength system to hit Somali in recorded history. GOV'T made landfall about 6 p.m. Sunday local time over the city of Hafun with sustained winds of 105 miles per hour, the equivalent of a category of 2 hurricanes. Several buildings were destroyed in Hafun, which is in the state of Puntland in eastern Somalia on the Horn of Africa. Hadia Mosiwa for Switch TV.
And from the business desk, Kenya's diaspora remittances have recorded a 17% increase from the previous 24.6 billion shillings that was received last year to set a new record of 28.8 billion shillings sent by October 2020. The inflow has exceeded the central bank and the World Bank's projected amount, which had been influenced by the current global financial crisis. John Katuni with a report.
Kenyans in diaspora send billions of shillings to their kins in Kenya, but this year the cash flow was threatened by the ongoing economic crisis caused by the coronavirus pandemic. For this reason, the CBK and the World Bank had foretold a dip in the external remittances. America and Britain houses many Kenyan migrants who contributes the biggest percentage of the remittances. However, these countries have been the most hit in the world, affecting jobs for everyone, especially migrants. In a statement, the CBK didn't disclose the reason for the increased inflow, but Mir Thakar, a financial expert, says this could be as a result of resistance to the economic crisis.
48% of our remittances are coming from the US, or rather from North America, the majority of which would obviously be the US, then we can see some form of resilience of the people. And again, these remittances are as a result of the investments in education by President Moi and President Kibaki that we are now actually seeing a payoff. So our staff seem to be quite resilient, the Kenyan employees in these foreign countries. But again, that's a sign that perhaps those recipients of these remittances are not so resilient.
Diaspora remittances contributes to the country's GDP, which for obvious reasons was to plummet this year, expected to dent general national economic performance, but Kenya is not highly dependent on the diaspora remittances. Thakar says this will help in bridging the trade deficit.
Remittances are not exceptionally important to us, but they are significant in helping us to deal with our 1.2 trillion trade deficit, and also to help us with our current account deficit.
Kenya will be hosting the Africa Diaspora Conference that will be leveraging diaspora resources for Africa's economic recovery post-COVID, the first of its kind for the African continent. Reporting for Switch TV, my name is Joanne Kutunyi.
Thank you, Joanne Kutunyi, for that story. Wearable air purifiers worth 5 million shillings after they've been donated by LG Electronics to the Kenya Medical Association for further distribution to medical workers at the COVID-19 frontline. Speaking during the event, the LG Electronics East Africa Managing Director Sang-Yong Kim said that the air purifiers come at a time when the country's medical workers' need for high-quality personal protective equipment is high.
This donation means a lot to Kenya Medical Association. I'm sure you're all aware of the last 1 month where we have lost so many of our senior colleagues, specialists, because of lack of adequate personal protective equipment. And we're happy that we have partnered with LG in terms of providing us with these LG mask purifiers, which are going to go a long way to protect our members for during this corona pandemic as they provide care to the public. So we'll urge all other corporate players in the market to partner with Kenya Medical Association in terms of supporting the government effort towards providing care in this pandemic period.
We are part of Kenya, we care about Kenya, we care about our health workers, and we wanted them to be protected, and that's why we partner with LG to donate these masks.
The Kenya Electricity Generating Company PLC KENYANS has unveiled an elaborate renewable energy project pipeline focused on supporting the government's economic growth agenda. The company's focus in the next 12 months, according to the Managing Director and CEO Rebecca Mieno, is to deliver the All Carrier 1 Unit 6 geothermal power plant, which will add 83.3 megawatts to the national grid. Geothermal power remains the major source of electricity in Kenya, accounting 45% of total energy generation.
The connection of All Carrier 5 geothermal power plant to the national grid in 2019 expanded the country's geothermal capacity by 25% to 856 megawatts. As a business, we are alive to the current situation, and in order for us to remain sustainable, we will continue to carefully consider long-term regulatory, political, economic, technological, and societal drivers of change and their impact on our business.
It's now time to get sporty. Kenya's JEPCHIRCHIR has made the shortlist for the World Athletics Female Athlete of the Year award. JEPCHIRCHIR looks to become the first ever Kenyan woman to clinch the prestigious crown. The World Half Marathon title holder made it to the final shortlist alongside Ethiopia's Len Senbet Gidey Sifan Hassan of Netherlands, Venezuela's Yulimar Rogers, and Jamaica's Elaine Thompson.
Trips on a corner there of one of the boards that is laid on the beach and heads for goal. Is his going to be goal for Kenya in Gidinya? JEPCHIRCHIR punches the air as she crosses the line. 65-15 unofficially. Kijeta maybe taking second place there ahead of UHURU, who just had that little stumble about 50 metres out. 65-16 for the Kenyan. She regains the world title. She lifted in Cardiff in 2016. Kijeta, 6.
Now, for a sport team to be successful, the team requires a coach, but at the same time, many Kenyans are used to the norm of seeing elderly and experienced coaches. Our very own Ivy Kavai caught up with one of the youngest male coaches in Kenya and filed the following story. Many apologies, that story will come tomorrow. Well, that sports segment wraps up our news broadcast tonight. Many thanks for watching. My name is Lincoln Ombogo. Our sign language interpreter is Tracy Dorcas. See you tomorrow. Good evening.